And welcome back. We have been joined in studio by Dr. Keisha McSweeney-Gussow. She is a senior scientific reviewer at the Food and Drug Administration in the United States. Good morning, and thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
All right, so this segment is to discuss your achievements as a Belizean in the world of science and, of course, Food and Drug Administration, your work with the FDA. Let's begin by talking first about your journey.
Okay.
What inspired you to, one, become a doctor, and two, to join the scientific community?
So, I was always interested in science. To me, it was one of the more interesting classes. I was never good at like literature or reading and that type of stuff, but science was a little bit more tangible. It was a little bit more active. They let you do little experiments. That was interesting for me. And then I'm a twin as well, a fraternal twin. And I was always interested in how genetics separates. We didn't look alike, at least growing up. We kind of look alike now, but growing up we didn't look alike. She looks like my parents. I don't look like any of them. The diseases that pass down, like that type of stuff was always interesting to me. So when I was first introduced to genetics, and that was actually pretty late, that was like in sixth form, that one teacher sort of brought it into class. That's what led me to continue that when I went to go do my bachelor's degree. And then I started doing some research after that it sort of just like snowballed into the PhD and the research that you're able to do while doing that program. All of that just like came together. But how I ended up at the FDA it was sort of serendipitous that I ended up there. I didn't even know that was a potential career. I didn't know that scientific reviewer was a thing that happened. And when I hear FDA, as most people do, I think drugs. But I'm actually in devices.
Okay. Wow.
I didn't even know they did that. Oh, I should say, I'm here on my own volition, not on behalf of the FDA. That's something I should say whenever I speak about my work. But I went to the FDA to do a postdoctoral fellowship. And while I was there, like sort of just like walking into people in the hallway, seeing other types of professions, I learned about the scientific reviewer path. And I became a scientific reviewer. I'm now team lead within the toxicology branch. And we review medical devices for like genetic tests, women's health, diabetes, those types of things.
Let's step back for a moment. One, we know that you're here because you delivered the graduation speech for your alma mater, St. Catherine Academy. And I just want to talk about what that moment feels like. We grow up here, and we all have our dreams as to what we want to do. And now you've been asked to come back and to speak to the girls as they start their journey. What did that feel like for you?
Thanks for that question. It's not something that I can put into words, like that I have thought of to put into words, but it's an amazing feeling. So I am incredibly thankful to Mrs. Tillett and the board and everyone at SCA who thought of me, who remembered me. Sometimes you feel, you get lost. I've been gone for a while, I'm incredibly thankful for the opportunity to do that. When I graduated, I was in the top 10, but I wasn't in the top 3, so I didn't give a speech. And I felt at the time, there's things to say. There are things like, you fail along the way, and people always tell you, things like it takes hard work, but they don't tell you, you're also gonna fail all the time. And I felt like those are the types of things that needed to be said, and I didn't get that opportunity then. And now, 16 years later, I'm like, okay, I have to start off with a little bit of that. I also thought, I wasn't the type of like studious type of, study, read, sit down, relax. I wasn't like that. I played volleyball. I danced with Belize National Dance Company. I was very active, and I didn't see that reflected as much coming up as someone who was busy but also interested in science. And having the opportunity now to talk to at least a subset of students who felt something like how I felt. I'm incredibly thankful for the opportunity to do that.
And it also gives you, the opportunity of having you speak at the graduation, speak on national platforms like this, is that there are little girls watching who realize that some of the barriers have been removed. You are, you grew up in Belize. You studied in the States. You are a woman of color in the United States, and entering into STEM professions. Big deal right now. Everybody's talking about STEM and STEAM and getting girls involved. So you were able to tell people about what it's like to kind of blaze that trail along with others. What are some of the lessons you've learned along the way?
Lean on the people who have your best interests at heart. For me, that was family. And that's not the case for everyone, but lean on them. They always are willing to listen. If they can't help, they're at least willing to listen. Another lesson is ask, ask for help. Ask when you don't know. Ask when you do know and you're not sure. Tell people what you're thinking about. Those are things I learned really, really late. Really, really late in life. Like if I had talked to anybody at a certain point in my life, I would have known it 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Yeah.
So and the minute there's like a spark of interest, you saw a documentary and you saw an animal you've never seen before, talk to somebody. Spread your interests. I feel like you come across people who help you along the way, even if you don't know it at the time. Those are things I didn't know. So.
What are some of the things that you have been doing in your research? I know you worked with the COVID-19 antibody tests. That must have been a really interesting, it was such an important part of the pandemic when we were looking at that testing system.
Yeah, so I'm a trained geneticist, and when the pandemic hit, the microbiology group got all of the work because it's a disease that falls into that division. Yeah. And so they had to sort of silo people away from the type of work that we were doing and into the COVID work and put a lot of attention on that. And I was chosen as one of those people to go be team lead for the serology group. And serology is just like blood work, antibodies, that type of stuff. And like I said, I didn't have any training in microbiology. They sound like the same word. It sounds like science all the same. Yeah. But it's not. It's completely different. I had no training in that, so I had to learn on the go. And it's under a process called EUA, Emergency Use Authorization. So it's like, you have 2 days, get it done. Whereas usually we had many more days to do the type of review. So we were working around the clock, and I was learning really quickly, talking to different scientists that I didn't work with before. It was an incredible opportunity. I step back and I understand the magnitude of the disease. It's a horrible disease, and the impact it's had on the world is not to be taken lightly. But from a scientific perspective, it is so interesting. Yeah. And being able to get close enough to at least the devices that we used to look at antibodies allowed me to be a little bit closer to it and understand the science a little bit more. And I appreciated that opportunity.
Did you recognize that magnitude in the moment while you were pulling all-nighters and trying to get this done?
I did. I had to speak to my husband. I was like, if this wasn't killing people, this would be really interesting. Unfortunately, it's a horrible disease, but we can talk about that forever. It affects your heart, it affects your lungs, it affects your muscles. It's a very interesting disease. I did recognize it in the time.
Yeah.
And I still recognize it now because it's not gone, it's not over. We're all, moving around like it's not here. It's still here, and in decades, we will have lived through it.
What does it feel like for you as a Belizean woman at the forefront of science and technology?
I don't feel like that. Those words don't really go across my head. I do feel like a face, a face for other people to see. A lot of times growing up, you don't see people that look like me in any sort of position like this. I said this a little bit in my speech, that as growing up as women, we're taught, be quiet, be gentle, stand back, let the man do it. And so now I feel a little bit more like, that's not the case. And to tell the truth, my parents never really instilled those values in me. So it's not like I was being held down in any kind of way. But I do see it sort of around me. And I do recognize the opportunity I have just as a face for this type of, for STEM and STEAM, you say. But I don't think about it as frequently as maybe I should.
Yeah. We love, and in this country, people love looking at Belizeans who have been able to achieve some level of success, and especially if we know they grew up and went in the school system here. Tell us just a bit about how you think your upbringing in Belize has been a part of what you have been able to accomplish.
So I think most of us, when we get to the point where we're going abroad for school, those of us who do, we feel like, we didn't get everything. We're going to come across people who got a lot more, exposure, opportunities, that type of stuff. And it's just not true. Our education is top notch. And beyond just, school, academics, that type of thing, Belize's culture is unmatched. We are so diverse. We have so many cultures right here. We have so many exposures that the rest of the world doesn't get. And when you are exposed to someone else, I feel like Belizeans are so able to mold, to learn quickly, to, jump to the next thing, because, in any environment in Belize, there's many different people, there's many different cultures.
Forced to adopt.
Yeah, that's the Belizean way. You'll find your way. So I think it's like a mental block that a lot of us have once we get there. But once you get through it, once you get to the next point, you realize, no, I had really good education, more than just school. I'm prepared. Belize generates geniuses. We just come with a little bit of a little more humility than we need, I think, once you go abroad. Humility is a good thing until it becomes a hindrance. So I think that's one of the things.
So explain that more. How'd you learn that lesson?
Again, the hard way. I feel like I heard a lot of people, you go in class, you hear people raise their hand, they talk loud. You're in your PhD classes, and the guys are very, very confident. They get to the front and they tell you about their science, and you think, wow. And then 2 years in, and you're doing the same thing, and you sit back and you're like, that person was just loud. They weren't actually doing anything different from what I'm doing. And you realize, the loudest person is the person that gets heard. Meanwhile, I'm over here being quiet and
It's intimidating.
Humble yourself.
Yeah. I'm sitting in the back, don't watch me. And you learn it the hard way. Okay, but if I had just done this one thing, if I had been, I would have had that opportunity. I would have been just trial and error, failure along the way.
No, that's such an important lesson. I think that goes right into the heart of the gender stereotypes that globally, we are trying to overcome. But tell us a bit. You said there were mostly males in your classes. Is that still the case in the field that you're working in?
Yeah, unfortunately, I believe it must be the case in almost every field that it's a male-dominated world. STEM is male-dominated. Men in STEM appear more confident and end up being seen more. But starting off, it usually starts off about half-half. And then a lot of the times women drop out, they start families, they have different goals. It's changing a little bit. We now have stay-at-home dads. We have, stereotypes are changing, and I'm happy to be a part of that and to see it live in action. I believe in the next 5 to 10 years, this type of conversation won't be happening. We'll be talking about something completely different. So I feel like we're in a transition right now.
Yeah. And what do you say to other girls who are about to start that journey and knowing that there will be obstacles along the way?
Push through. I think I heard Oprah say it, fake it till you make it. You smile when you want to cry. Push through, call your mom, cry, and go do it. You don't have to do it happily. You don't even have to do it well. Just do it.
Yeah. Is there something that for you is an ultimate goal that you want to work on?
Not an ultimate. I do have several mini goals along the way. Something that I feel like everybody knows, but I'm just learning is you never stop. I feel like when you're growing up, you're 16, you look at somebody who's 30 and you think they got it, they're done. This is their job forever, they got it figured out. And then when you reach 30, you're like,
nah.
So then I'm like, okay, maybe at 60 I'll get it done. Nah. So I don't really have an ultimate goal. But one of the goals, I really would love to see something built in Belize City that allows for anyone interested, namely, underrepresented minorities and women, but anyone interested to learn the hands-on research techniques. And not necessarily because I believe we're not being taught it now. I know we're being taught it now, but because I feel like you get a confidence boost when you're doing it here, and you can say, I was at Belize's Research Institute of whatever, making things up. I feel like that helps so much when you go abroad or you go anywhere else to be able to like, have that confidence boost. Like, I've done this, I know I'm good.
Yeah.
That is a dream of mine. But I wouldn't say it's ultimate.
Okay. Somebody's listening, thinking they're gonna give you a call and see how they can
Cool,
make
let's
that
talk.
happen.
Yeah.
You're ready.
I'm ready.
How do you bring together all of your ambitions? Because while you have certain dreams and goals, there are certain things that are achievable perhaps in the short to mid-term. There are perhaps other ideas that you have that would be maybe a lifelong pursuit. But how do you tie everything together to be able to enjoy the kind of success that you're enjoying at the moment?
You guys are asking very good questions. I really appreciate it. I tell you the truth, they're not tied together. they sort of like roll.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
feel like, as you're working on one thing, you meet somebody else, you roll into the next thing. And, being able to seize an opportunity is something that I had to learn to do. Like, just be quick on your feet. You meet somebody, you spend the extra hour talking to them.
Yeah.
They're honestly not tied together. It's rolling. I have ideas and, keep them in the forefront of my mind. So when I meet people or when I'm in a certain room, I can bring them up.
Yeah.
But they're not tied together.
Yeah. Still playing sports and still having time for everything else.
Yes, I'm a busybody. I cannot relax. He'll tell you.
You said earlier, when you look at 16 years ago when you were graduating from high school, while you were a top performer, you weren't top 3. A lot of times people think that excellence only come if you have been on top the entire time. And, it's important that we're able to share that they can, and they probably will, but others will also rise as they learn more about themselves. How do you articulate that to people?
It's tough to hear, but this is what I've said to like my cousins coming up who are willing to listen to me be a little bit more tough. It doesn't matter. In 2 years, no one will remember. In 5 years, you won't remember. In 10 years, you'll all be the same. It doesn't matter. I think you have to find a way to celebrate the people who made top 3, who get the attention because they earn it. But celebrate yourself too, because in 2 years it won't matter. Like I said earlier, push through, push when you don't want to. Yeah. Even if you don't. Being able to speak to my SCA girls the last couple days ago, it really feels like a full circle moment. Coming back, it's like it does not matter. It'll come back around. Life is long, short and long at the same time.
Yeah. No, I love that. There's a graduate watching right now who maybe missed on a roll by like 0.5, who's been hardened on themselves, and they're able to watch that and be able to hear you say, it's going to get better.
Yeah.
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 There are always opportunities for us to redeem ourselves, right? While we may have fallen short of a particular goal, life is such that there will be another opportunity where you can prove to yourself primarily that you're able to achieve something worthwhile. And I think once we're able to capitalize on that, then we no longer focus on being first at everything or being in a certain category that separates you from everybody else.
Exactly.
It's a matter of being able to accept where you are and being able to make up for things that maybe,
Exactly. If you're learning, you're achieving the goal. That's the goal, right?
That's right, and you're growing.
Yes.
So let's step back and look at the bigger picture. As someone who is working in the United States, grew up here, and you look back home, I'm sure you see areas that you would wish could be better. We all want to see the country grow and develop, and a lot of times we have bright students like you who go out and get opportunities that we'd be foolish to tell them to turn down, but we don't get them back home. When you look at the landscape here, what do you think, what would you want to change so that we can have some of our brightest minds come back and help from here?
We're coming back.
Yeah.
First things.
Yes.
I think it starts, someone has to do it. And I know many scientists in my year alone who are thinking about it right now. We're coming back. And we have to set it up so that it's easier for the next group. It's challenging because, it's a smaller country and you might not be able to get paid the same amount. It might take a little bit longer for you to get to the next step. So somebody has to do it. Somebody has to come and just let it be a little bit easier for the next. And while, there's nothing tangible, it's in our minds. We're coming back. Yeah. We're in a transition phase, things are changing. I want to see people not feel the way I at least felt, you know, you know, I did it. I'm not sure I know. I would love to see people go abroad with the confidence that, you know, they should have given the education and the opportunities that are here in Belize. But we're coming back.
Wow. Okay. So you still keep close with other Belizeans, and yeah, all right.
Yes.
So we're going to look forward to that. What is the research institute going to be called?
I don't, you know, I could make things up if you like.
Oh, it is so great to have you on the show, and a great opportunity to shine some positive light. You've been doing this for a while, but of course, since you're here, we're able to have you on set to talk. Anything you would like to say to Belizeans who are watching this morning, young, old, female, male?
Sure. I said this in my speech, and this is the camera. I said that in my speech, and I don't want to be redundant, but I believe you need to know that you belong. That, you know, there's this concept of imposter syndrome where you feel like, you know, I don't belong here. They think I'm smart, but I'm not smart. You belong. Belize there's only one Belize in this country, in this world. There's only one Belize, and you are the unique. You are the best.
All right. Well, Dr. Gussow, we are grateful that you joined us, and we thank you for coming in and just sharing a bit of the work that you've been doing, but more so about the story that got you there.
Thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate the conversation.
All right. And with that,
we take our next commercial break, and when we return, it's to discuss the Urume project, which is a series of classes that will be offered in Garifuna. Stay tuned.